Sometimes life is messy. Have you ever wished you could refocus your mind, home, relationships, and work life? Join us as we use research-based information to make practical changes and simplify life. This is Life Simplified.
Welcome to Life Simplified. March is Living Well Month, so we have been discussing all things wellness. This week, we're going to focus on a relatively ignored aspect of wellness, occupational wellness. So I'm going to give you all the definition first of what occupational wellness is, because when I was assigned this topic for this episode, I was like, I have no idea. So we're going to dig in, but first, let's know what we're working from here. So occupational wellness is pursuing and or obtaining a career path or paths that supports your goals, professional growth, and success. So just thinking about that definition, what do you think? Like, have you ever considered your occupational wellness?
I would say probably not. And when we were even discussing these topics to begin with, I think we were all like, occupational wellness will be interesting. Tiffany?
Yeah, thanks. I'll dig right in.
So,
not really. I always just think it's something we have to do,
Yeah.
So I think, I have to work to provide for my family, and I don't really think about the wellness aspect of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you have good days at work and bad days at work, or there's like a slump, like I got to do this meeting and I don't want to do, things like that, but not just overall, like you talked about, supports personal growth and success.
I can't say that I've ever thought about it as well until we started really talking about this topic of what we was going to talk today.
Right. And, I think for me, I almost felt a little ashamed as I dug into this topic that I had not considered it, especially coming from a mental health background. And we've discussed the concept of work-life balance so many times. And I think even in having those discussions, it was more of how do I make sure I even up my time and I'm really focusing on my family and doing the things I enjoy, but not considering, am I enjoying my work-life part of that work-life balance, like the actual occupational aspect of it? Do I feel like I'm successful, like I'm having that professional growth I would like, that I'm reaching any of those professional goals? And I think it's kind of silly when I look at it now, clearly that would help to have better work-life balance. If you are loving the thing you're doing and it's fulfilling you in that aspect of your life, then you're going to be able to find that balance much easier than it is just a place I show up and I get a paycheck and then that's it. So I'm glad, even though this is a different kind of topic and something I did not consider before, I'm glad that I got assigned this topic and we can dig in just a little bit to what occupational wellness actually is. And so the materials that I'm using for today come from the University of New Hampshire Extension. And so I'm going to kind of use it as a guide, but I want us to have a lot of discussion today because since it's something we've not really considered before, hopefully we'll have some thoughts, some, light bulb aha moments as we go through today. So we'll start out with signs of occupational wellness. And so these are some of the things that you might look for to see that, things are going good, that I'm healthy, I have positive occupational wellness. So doing work that you find motivating and interesting. And I love that. And I think we've discussed this in some other episodes, but the work that we do is so varied. It's so different. We're constantly changing and learning new things and developing new skills. I do find it, for the most part, very motivating and interesting. And so that is a key to occupational wellness. And that kind of made me feel good. I don't know what y'all think about that, but it makes sense that if you are interested in your work and you're motivated in your work, you're going to want to do your work.
So I'll just tell a little bit about my background as far as how I became a family and consumer science agent. Graduated from high school, went on to college, community college for a couple of years, ended up getting married. Then I got pregnant, had my son. So I dropped out of college at a young age and I thought, well, I need my focus right now is being a wife and a mother. So didn't even think anything else about far as going to college to get a degree. I worked at jobs that didn't particularly care for, wasn't happy at, but you know what? I had to because I had to provide for my family. And let's see, I've been with Extension 17 years. So probably 17 years ago, I decided I'm going to start back on my degree. And I knew then, I'm not going to tell my age, but I'm a lot older than these other ladies here. But it took me a very long time to get my bachelor's degree. But that's okay. I done it, and I done it for myself, and so you're never too old to learn new skills and to be able to go and reach your dreams. And so now whenever I did start with Extension, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to go in the field as a family and consumer science agent. And I loved being an assistant for many years. I loved what I do, but this position was my ultimate go. And I love my job. I love what I do every day. I'm not doing the same thing every day. And I love being able to make my brain think of new ways and being trained for new things in life to help other people. And that's what I really love about my job.
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out, because in hearing your story, it reminded me that in some phases of our life, we have jobs to make ends meet because we need to be able to pay those bills. And then at some point, hopefully we get to the place where we can have a career, where we find meaning in it and we feel like we can grow and we're making a difference and we're making an impact. And I think that's when we really find this occupational wellness, is when we can finally get to that point where there is something deeper there than just the paycheck. Yes, the paycheck is vitally important,
yes,
and we all need that. That will never go away. But if you can enjoy the work you're doing to earn that paycheck, then I think that just is the icing on the cake. That is what we're trying to obtain. So I love that. And thank you for sharing that with us, because I think that's important for people to remember. So another sign of occupational wellness would be understanding how to balance leisure with work. And that's a whole work-life balance that we've talked about. So if you don't know that, we've got details on that in another episode. We'd love for you to check that out. But yeah, if we're all work and no play, or all play and no work, then we're going to have a problem. So finding that middle ground is really, really important. And it's going to look different for everybody. And it's going to look different at different times of the year, different phases of life. You know yourself better than anybody. But I think definitely if you're seeking occupational wellness, having that balance with your leisure and your work life is vitally important. So check out that episode. The next one is working in a way that fits into your personal learning style. And I thought that was interesting to think about. I've been in a leadership program, and one of the things we did is try to figure out our learning style, because we think about what's our leadership style, but also how do I learn new information? How do I process that and make meaning out of it? And I don't know, have y'all ever considered that as, thinking about your own learning style for your occupational wellness?
I've noticed when I teach classes and do things, I always incorporate visual things because I am a visual learner. So I know sometimes I lean heavy on it. So I'm trying to be mindful of that, but not that fits into my occupation, which it does, because we are definitely a lot of hands-on learning.
I like in person because I like to be able to dialogue with people in real time. So I'm also okay with some of the newer online trainings that are live. But I like that. But I also like that hands-on aspect, that experiential learning. Like, give me the information, then give me an opportunity to utilize it so I can check for clarity and understanding and make sure I'm really gathering what you're trying to get me to do. And, it's actually fun timing because Joni and I were in a training all day yesterday, and it was such a great training. And I think part of it was because they did use multiple mediums of learning. Like they, had the PowerPoint, they had the discussion, but they also had some teamwork and some experiential learning as well. And I think incorporating all of that was very helpful for me. And I thought it made that successful.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And then just learning what other people and different generations also how they learn, and being able to make sure that we reach, all clientele in that. And I think that's important. I'm personally am a hands-on person. I'm a visual learner too. I could look at something with pictures and I probably could figure it out. But, I personally, you set me in front of something and try to figure it out myself, I'm going to probably figure it out, but it's going to take me a while. Or if I have to read. Y'all know I love to read. Well, let me rephrase that. I love to listen to books, but not necessarily read.
You like to be read too, and I love that though.
Yeah.
That's good because you know that about yourself. And I think it's cool because we think about our learning style when we're learning, but this is saying not only when you're learning, but work in that way.
Yeah.
Set up your day in a way that really lends itself to how you thrive. And so I think that that's a point that we need to take a look at.
Well, and I think about, as we're going through these questions and talking about our learning style, I have one child who will be deciding on a career very soon. And it never occurred to me to say, well, think about your learning style and how you like to learn and how you could incorporate that into a career. And so I think that is just going to be really helpful. So if for someone that is starting to look for a job or a career, whatever stage you are in life, to be thinking about these questions when you're trying to decide.
Yes, this is not just for those of us that are in our career and we're checking in on ourselves to see if we have achieved occupational wellness. This is for everyone who is working towards that career. Because if you look at that definition, it's pursuing and or obtaining a career path or paths that supports your goals, professional growth, and success. So, you may be in the pursuing part of that, but this is things you can consider to help you make those decisions. If talking in front of an audience is not something that you feel like is your strong suit, maybe going down an educational path where you're going to teach day in and day out isn't for you. And knowing that about yourself, I think can really help you from going down one path and then all of a sudden realizing, oh, that really doesn't speak to my strengths. And so you're right. This is for everybody. And I think this is something I wish I had known 20 plus years ago. Just like look for these things, consider these things. So I think that's a very valid point. And, another sign of occupational wellness is being able to communicate and collaborate with others. So communicating, collaborating, and we do that every day in our work with Extension. We are communicating and collaborating with each other right now as we speak. So we're actively doing this right now. And I think this just kind of fills our need for relationship and growth and honing those skills. So I really think communicating and collaborating with others is important. Now, we are in kind of a new phase of the world, post-pandemic. More and more people are working from home, working remotely, kind of having a hybrid schedule. And so knowing that, know yourself and make sure that you're making room for that communication, collaboration with others. And it doesn't have to be in person anymore because we have technology that does amazing things. But also know that if you're spending the majority of your time alone, that may affect your occupational wellness. So looking for ways that you can start incorporating more of that into your daily schedule may enhance that occupational wellness for you. Another one is working independently and with others. So kind of with that communication and collaboration, we want to be able to work with other people, but we also want to be able to have independent work. So kind of having that balance between time focusing in on your work, your tasks, and really kind of getting into that work flow that we've talked about in other episodes, but then also having that time with other individuals and collaboration and those communication moments. That's equally as important.
And I think that's funny. Just the other day, my youngest and I were talking about careers because apparently she is also thinking about this. She still has a little bit longer before she has to jump right into something, but she's made the statement something along the lines of, I think I just want to work somewhere where I can just be by myself. I'm just going to work by myself. And I said, that's fine, but you really thrive around people. You're very much a people person and really enjoy being around people. You don't really like to go to your room and hang out there by yourself. Do you think you would want to work by yourself all the time? And she considered it for a minute and she thought maybe I might be right, but I just think that's funny that we were just talking about
Maybe
this.
you're talking
Maybe, probably not, but I might be onto something there.
I like it. So you do need to consider your personality. I think we hear a lot about, people who are introverts and extroverts. And, I think most of us ebb and flow in both directions. But I think knowing that about yourself, you're right. If I love to be around people and then I'm going to go get a job where I'm sitting in a cubicle by myself, not interacting at all, but myself on a computer screen, that may not be the best thing for me. And if I also am an introvert, maybe being where I have to be on a team and it's all teamwork all the time, that is not going to help me to thrive either. So considering all of the things. And if you are in those situations and you're starting to feel like, oh, this isn't a good fit, how can I begin to make small adjustments to help fuel me in a way that's going to make me feel better about the career that I'm in? The next one is feeling inspired and challenged. I think this is truly like the key of when you're in the right position, the right place. And I don't think you feel this every single day. So I don't think it's one of those things where it's like, oh, today I feel uninspired. I'm not challenged. This must not be for me. It's going to ebb and flow just like anything. But I think when you can say more days than not, I feel really inspired and challenged by my work, that you have really reached that level of occupational wellness that I think we should all want to obtain. And I will say for myself that more days than not, I do feel inspired and challenged by the work that I get to do. And so I think that's an honor that we can do something like that, because some people will never find that. And so don't take that lightly if you have found it. And if you haven't found it, keep looking, because it's out there. I think everybody has something that will fit for them. It just may take a longer journey for some people than others, and that's okay. But feeling inspired and challenged is a key. It's one of those main signs to occupational wellness.
And I love that you said to look at the big picture, look at it overall, because Amanda said at the beginning, we have good days, we have bad days, but taking a look overall, that one bad day doesn't mean that you're dissatisfied with your job. And then hopefully you have that support system that you can talk those bad days through and get you back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we don't want to have an all or nothing mindset. And sometimes we can get into that, because sometimes we just kind of get in a yuck mood. And it can be really easy to negate all the positive we've done, all the good things. And we can just kind of feel like, it's too heavy. I'm not feeling it. I don't feel like I'm making an impact. But taking a step back, sometimes maybe that is when my balance between my leisure and my work is off kilter, and I just need a break, need a chance to refresh, and then come back and look at it and go, you know what? Probably things aren't as bad as what I'm thinking. I'm just not in a good mindset. So looking at the big picture will help you to see what's really there, and instead of what you're feeling in the moment. And I think piggybacking on that, the last sign of occupational wellness is feeling good at the end of the day about the work you accomplished. And I think if you feel inspired, if you feel challenged, if you feel motivated, if you feel interested, all of those things we've been discussing, then you're going to feel good at the end of the day about the work that you accomplished. So that is kind of like, that is the measuring stick we want to use. That is what we want to be looking at to say, okay, where am I right now on the continuum of occupational wellness? And if something feels off, then make adjustments. Just like any other area of our life, any other area of wellness, you have awareness of it. Word of the year. We find that, we are aware, and then we start to pivot. We make some adjustments where we can and see what happens, because sometimes it takes a very small change to make a very big impact. So all is not lost if you feel like you're not hitting all of these areas. Now, they have a section that says check in with your occupational wellness, and these are some questions you can ask yourself. And I'm not necessarily going to dig into these right now, but I do want our listeners to be thinking for yourself at home where you feel like you're at with your occupational wellness. So the first one is, are you currently working in an occupation that you find interesting and meaningful? I think we hit on that, and I think all four of us can say we do. We find it very interesting and meaningful, and we love providing these podcast episodes for you. So, that's something to think about for yourself. Are you in an occupation that you find interesting and meaningful? The next one is, what opportunities do you want to take advantage of to propel your occupational wellness? Are there internships? Are there study abroad opportunities? Is there volunteer work? Are there leadership programs? What is it that you can take advantage of that can help kind of push you into that occupational wellness? If you feel like something's missing, maybe it's just taking an opportunity that can put you where you need to be. And I encourage everyone to do that, because you may find that is the key to finding that answer of what do I need to be doing to really motivate myself and to grow professionally. And then the last question is, what's your balance between work and relaxation? And I don't think that we can hit on this enough. Take a look at that, because I think that is really where we find ourselves not having that occupational wellness, because we're not looking at the full picture between leisure and work life. Exploring occupational wellness. There are some other tips that the University of New Hampshire gave us, and so we're going to just touch on them briefly. Some of them are: don't settle. Keep motivated to work towards what you want. And I don't know for you all, like any time in my life that I feel like I'm settling, I always end up unhappy. And it doesn't matter what aspect of life. I think settling is just kind of throwing in the towel and saying, well, this is the best that this thing has to offer, and I'm just going to accept it. But we don't want to do that, right? Because we don't want to survive our life. We want to thrive in our life. And so, if you feel like you're just surviving your job, then find a way to thrive in it. What can you do to push it a step forward?
Well, I'll just go back to my story that I was sharing earlier about me as far as getting my bachelor's degree. Was a lot of days, and Ashley can contest to this, I was ready to quit. Like, it was hard. I was working full-time mom, wife, and trying to go to school. And some days I just wanted to quit. But I kept on focusing on what I wanted to do. When I was close to the end of the tunnel, I just keep on motivating myself. And I had a great support system around me too, to help me far as when I was getting down on myself of, far as a class wasn't going good or whatever, and I wanted to quit. I had that support to help me get myself back on track and kept pushing forward so I could have my degree.
Yeah, that's huge. Our support network is key in our life. And especially when we're at that point where we want to settle. We just want to be like, I can't push myself any further. Having them there to cheer us on is very valuable. And I'm glad that you didn't settle, that you found that motivation and you push yourself forward, because you could have just said, oh, you know what? It's not worth it. It's too much. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not going to do it. But you found a way to motivate yourself each time to push through. And I know that you are so glad you did.
Oh, I am so glad that I did, and I was happy. I was content in the position that I was at, but I wanted to push myself further, of becoming an agent. And I'm so glad that I did. And, like I said, you can do it. Some days are going to be hard, but you can just keep on pushing forward and just think about what the big picture is and the goal that you want to obtain.
Absolutely. And when you feel like you want to give up, you may just be one step away from meeting that goal. So, you've pushed this far. Don't quit there. So don't settle. Keep your motivation up. The next one is increase your skills and knowledge to advance your occupational wellness goals. And I think this is something that we can forget, particularly if we found ourselves that we are in the career that we chose and we've been there for a while. Sometimes we get to the point where we're like, oh, I just feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And what used to motivate us and what used to encourage us may no longer be enough, and we can feel really stagnant. And so I think that's when we want to find new ways to grow and learn and increase our skill base and our knowledge base. And this is where taking advantage of some of those opportunities can really push you on. I know for myself, I've mentioned before, being in a leadership program has been huge, because it's not only pushed me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but it's continued to grow my leadership skills, my knowledge, and my networking with other individuals within the same career choice as myself. And that kind of gave me a new boost of motivation, of encouragement, and of really, refinding that occupational wellness. And so if you find yourself in a place where you're like, oh, I feel like I've been doing this for a decade plus and it's just the same thing over and over again, try to learn a new skill, try to increase your knowledge, trying to find a new leadership opportunity within the organization you're in, because it can renew that sense of occupational wellness for you. Find the benefits and positives in your current job. Sometimes we just need to sit down and go, okay, what's all the great things? Because we can get stuck in a negative place. And when you're feeling negative, all you're focusing on are the things that you don't like about something or some situation. And if you find yourself there, it's not a fun place to be. So sometimes we need to take a step back and either verbally with a friend share all the good stuff, or make a list. Like, sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and be like, what are all the awesome things about my current job? What do I love about it? And it can be any aspect of it. And if you only start with, I get a paycheck, we'll start with, I get a paycheck, and then go from there, because you'll start to find other things. You know, we use this same kind of mentality when we're thinking about mental health, and we call it having an attitude of gratitude and focusing on all the things we have to be thankful for. And I tell people sometimes, like, if all you can be thankful for is that you woke up today and you're breathing oxygen, put it down. It's a start. So same thing with your career, with your job. If you're struggling or you're feeling a little frustrated, start with, I get a paycheck, and then let it grow from there. But I will tell you, when we start changing our mindset from focusing on the yuck to focusing on the good, it makes all the difference in the world. And then we start to recognize areas where we can start to make different impacts, and we can grow, and we can get new skills and new opportunities. So just changing your mind will make a big, big difference.
And I find that when I'm in that negative mindset, that everything is negative.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can find something wrong with everything. Mm-hmm. It's not always easy to just switch it around. So I think that's great that you just said, you know, the one thing. You get a paycheck from this job, or whatever it is. Start with one thing and build on it every day.
Yeah. Start small. Like with anything I think we've ever discussed on Life Simplified, start small. Like, we give you lots of information, but it can be overwhelming, and never do we expect you all to take every tip and every suggestion and every bit of information and be like, I'm going to do this today. No, we're not setting you up for failure. Take that small piece and make that small change that fits for you. And it's going to be different. Everybody's going to take a different piece from every episode. And that's what we want you to do. We want you to find what fits for you. Creating connections with your coworkers. That absolutely increases your occupational wellness. And I would say 100% that my connection with you ladies really improves my occupational wellness. Like, it's positive. I look forward to seeing you all. You know, we are really serious and we're making impacts, but we're also having a lot of fun and making a lot of connections and building relationships. And that is what you want at your workplace. Like, so, you know, hashtag goals. Right. You know, find your people, or at least find your person that you feel like you can connect with and grow that relationship, because we spend more time with the people we work with most of the time than we do with our own family members and friends that are outside of our careers. So how miserable would it be to go into your job every day and just not have any fun, any connection, any relationship? That's not a good way to live your life. And so trying to make connections. And again, we're not going to be besties with every human that we work with. Just like we don't choose our family, we don't choose our coworkers. But there's going to be someone to connect with. Being to yourself all the time, it's going to get lonely. And then when you are in that negative mindset, there's no one to try and like lift you out of it, or to like, let's go to lunch and let's just kind of reset our day and let's think about this differently, or just let me bounce this idea off of you. You know, we need those people in our lives. And so thank you, ladies, for being part of my tribe, my work tribe. I appreciate each of you. And so I hope that those of you listening are creating connections, are thinking about people you can create those connections with at your workplace. Avoid overworking yourself. Again. I think we've said this 15 times. Find a work-life balance.
We need a huge sign.
Right. Like,
work-life balance.
Like, clearly, I've said it like 10 times today already, and we've got a whole episode on it, and we've mentioned it in other ones. So it's important. if I have to say, I'm tell you like I tell my kids, if I have to repeat it over and over again, it's probably of value. So hopefully consider it. I know easier said than done, but awareness, make small changes. That's the goal. Enjoy what you do and do what you enjoy. You know, I always heard people say, you know, like if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I mean, I don't know. I think we're always going to have a day that it feels like work, and that's okay. That's okay. But I do think there's something to that. If I enjoy what I'm doing, then it doesn't feel like a burden. And hopefully you can find a place where your work, your job, career does not feel like a burden, but it's something you look forward to doing more often than not. And then this one's big, and I don't know that I've done this. I think maybe I have it in my head, but it says write out your occupational goals and create a plan to reach them. Then start working the plan. I absolutely wish I have occupational goals. Like, I think that's something that sometimes we forget. We're setting goals in so many other areas of our life, and we're really discussing them, and we're finding accountability partners, and we're doing all of that. But like, occupational goals are just as important. And like I said, I think I've done this within my mind. I don't know that I've like physically written it out, but make those goals and then start working out towards them. And I think that's something I have been trying to be really cognizant of over the last couple of years. And that's taking those opportunities and volunteering for those roles and responsibilities and joining those committees and doing those things that may seem like a burden. But if you have a goal and those things will help you reach that goal and make those connections, then why not? But you have to know what your goal is for you. And if you don't have a goal, sit down and think, what do I want? What do I want to see happen for me career-wise? And it may not be that you want a different role or a different job, but like, how do I want to change and grow within the role I currently have? So I think that's important. You know, write it down. And maybe I need to do that too. I need to actually write it down so then I have a little more like, okay, it's there in black and white. Now I'm committed to it.
So I'm going to throw this out there, talking about goals and that, talking about work-life balance.
Yes.
If you are not in a balance between your work and your life, maybe creating a goal of maybe taking a step back of not working three nights out of the week, or, you know, knock it down to 2, then maybe down to 1, you know. So when you're doing your goals for your work life, and if you're trying to find that balance, throw some of them goals in there too. But goals that you know that are attainable, you know.
Yes, those SMART goals, right?
Yeah.
And what really stood out to me about that is be specific. You know, so I can say like, oh, I want to work on my work-life balance. What does that mean? What does that look like? And so I like that you're like, I may work 2 evenings a week, and that's it. And at least that's a number. It's specific. I can see it. I can look at my calendar and know, am I reaching that goal? Am I not reaching that goal? And it could be anything. That's just an example. But I do like the specific nature of that. So remember your SMART goals. And I'm not going to go through all of that, but be specific, or else it's just kind of like a wish that we toss up in the sky. Oh, I wish I had work-life balance, but I'm doing nothing towards it. So that's a really good point. And then the last point here too is something that I don't think we really think about either, but it's talk to a career counselor if you feel stuck. And there are professionals who that is what they do. Like, they're counselors, but they are career counselors. And their goal is to help you figure out what your strengths are and guide you into career paths that will fulfill you and help you find this level of occupational wellness. So if you're just starting out and trying to figure out what you want it to be, or if you've been doing something for a while and it just doesn't feel like it's the right fit, at any point, seeking out this guidance can really help you to identify where you can find your fit and finally reach that occupational wellness that you've probably been looking for but didn't know what to call it. Because if it was me, I'd be like, I don't know what it's called, but there's just something missing. They'll help you find what's missing and help you make choices to fill that gap. So thank you, ladies, for discussing this with me. I think this is a great topic. I hope everybody that listened really enjoyed it as well. And it makes you think differently about all the levels of wellness and how there are some that we just don't think about all the time. So I hope that you will take the time to assess your own occupational wellness and explore opportunities to move you forward in your own goals. As always, you can find resources in our show notes, and we encourage you to send us questions and comments on our Facebook page or at our email address at lifesimplifiedpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to Life Simplified. We are family and consumer sciences agents with the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. Contact us at lifesimplifiedpodcast@gmail.com.